57 seconds. That's the amount of time it took for ATF to show up to Brian Malinowski's home, cover the door cam, cut the electricity, barge into his home, and put a bullet in his head, all with his wife standing there. Mind you, 6 a.m. in the morning. They were there to serve a search warrant. They weren't there to serve a death penalty. If convicted of the alleged crimes, Brian Malinowski would have been facing at a maximum 5 years in prison, not death. They roll up with 10 cars, 20 plus agents, no body cams. What were they trying to hide? Are they grossly incompetent, or were they acting out of maliciousness? History has proven ATF has acted out of maliciousness time and time and time again. This instance led to a man's death. Ask yourself, if somebody barges into your home at 6 in the morning, you don't know who they are and what they're there for, what is your first reaction? Do you invite them in for tea, or do you grab your firearm to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your property, which you have the God-given right to do? In our opinion, Brian Malinowski acted as if every other person would act. Jim Jordan agrees with us. Listen to what he has to say.
Her husband Brian woke up to the sound of the crash, found a pistol, loaded a magazine, and left the bedroom to investigate. Brian warned his wife to stay behind in the bedroom, but Mayor stubbornly followed him down the hallway. The ATF apparently killed electricity to the home. The front room was usually well lit at night, but Mrs. Malinowski saw only darkness as she peered down towards the front entryway. She could only see shadowy outlines of presumed home invaders standing in her front hallway. That's what Brian saw too. Brian fired a few shots at the intruders' feet to drive them back out of the front door. The ATF shot Brian in the head. His wife was standing inches away from him. Even though policies have been in place at both the ATF and the Little Rock Police Department for the past 3 years, requiring the use of body-worn cameras when executing any search warrant, the Department of Justice tells us that no body cameras were used. If this isn't the weaponization of government, I don't know what is.
So let's step back a second and ask ourselves, why did ATF feel so emboldened to show up to Brian Malinowski's house? It's because under the new ATF, under Steve Dettelbach's ATF within the Biden administration, ATF has continuously gone more and more and more rogue, given themselves more and more and more power to be judge, jury, and executioner. The Engaged in Business rule, which was published last Monday, essentially, if you want to boil it down into a couple lines, which I know ATF doesn't want to do, they'll use 500 pages, but we'll tell you exactly what it means in 2 lines. ATF gave themselves a blank check to decide who is a dealer and how to enforce who is a dealer. We just saw how they enforced it in Arkansas. They went and shot the guy in the head for having a hobby of selling guns. This new rule, passed by Senate Republicans led by John Cornyn, has emboldened ATF to act out in this manner. And it is only going to get worse unless somebody holds them accountable and somebody throws the flag up. Don't just take our word for it. Listen to Representative Troy Nehls yesterday in committee, a former law enforcement officer, talk with Director Dettelbach on how dangerous no-knock raids truly are.
I was a sheriff, 8 years as in law enforcement, 30, conducted a lot of search warrants. My agency, I would not allow for no-knocks. Just didn't allow it because what we've seen over the past several years, when you have these SWAT teams looking like ninjas coming to doors at 6 o'clock in the morning, it just could cause some problems. Executing a search warrant pre-dawn, early in the morning, knowing people are going to be in bed, how does that mitigate risk? Especially when you do it and it's a no-knock.
So Congressman, as a former sworn sheriff, I assume you would agree with me that police are entitled to due process also.
I tell you what it appears to me is what I've seen from the federal government, whether it's ATF or the FBI, going in there with flashbangs, with the big Bearcats. I had a Bearcat, I know what it is. And having agents come out looking like they're ninja turtles for combat. I think not only are you scaring the hell out of the entire neighborhood, but when you kick down or break down a door and you don't even announce who you are, what do you think is going to happen?
What ATF has done here is they've successfully created a chilling effect with this rule for gun owners all across America. They have intentionally made this rule so vague as to scare off anybody who even thinks about performing a firearm transaction, even one, even to a parent, even to a relative. I want you to listen to what Victoria Spartz had to say yesterday in committee about the vagueness of this rule and how it will be enforced.
what is really going to be now your new definition? Because it's so broad.
It's not a new definition. It implements Congress's definition. Congress changed the definition.
Yes, and you put 500 pages of explanation. So can you summarize the normally plain language an American can understand?
I believe that our positions they're not secret. They're in
court.
But
explain
they're filed.
Without reading 500 pages that are confusing.
The rule seeks by providing practical, conduct-based things that normal people could. For instance, one of the things that can result in people, depending on all the circumstances, is you take credit cards for payment. That could be one of the signs that somebody's in business. One of the things that might be on the other side.
App and then I sell a gun and take a credit card and potentially will be a dealer?
One of the things that might be on the other side is if you're occasionally dealing or gifting to family members. Right? We try to say things on both sides.
My time has expired, but I'll tell you, you put American lives in danger and your ATF agent in danger by doing this, because you're doing gun control. It is a very clever way to make everyone in dealer have a zero tolerance and exercise gun control and Second Amendment rights, but you put your people in danger and American people. I yield back.
If you've been following the National Association for Gun Rights for the past 6 months to a year, you will know that we immediately sounded the alarm when we got wind of this new engaged in business rule. We got a lot of pushback. We were called dramatic, hyperbolic. Look at how ATF is choosing to enforce this rule. Look at everything that can come from this rule. You talk about a gun registry, you're talking about where the guns are, who has the guns, and if we need to confiscate them, we know exactly how to do it, when to do it, and where to do it. This is ATF's crown jewel wrapped around an engaged in business title. All right, admittedly so, there's been a lot of doom and gloom up to this point in the video, so I want to lay some hope on you guys, and there is hope. Our main goal directed at the agency, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, is to abolish the agency as a whole. Defund it, abolish it, wrap it up, throw it in the trash can where it belongs. It's a trash agency, we don't need it, we get rid of it, we don't have these overarching rules, we don't have any of the bull crap coming from Director Dettelbach. That's the main goal, but that takes time, that's a long project, a lot of legwork, a lot of work. However, there are other avenues we can take. Congressional Review Acts, nullify rules. Andrew Clyde, representative from Georgia 9, one of the best gun votes in the House, one of the best representatives on the issue as a whole. He has introduced a CRA to nullify the engaged in business rule. He also did so with the pistol brace rule, which actually passed the House thanks to hardcore lobbying tactics from your National Association for Gun Rights. Why are we walking you through this right now? You're probably thinking, well, Joe Biden will never sign that and it probably won't pass the Senate. You're probably right. Maybe it doesn't pass the Senate. Maybe Joe Biden never gets the opportunity to sign it. But we don't want Joe Biden to sign it. This is a play for 2025 when we can show our Republican leadership in the House and in the Senate and hopefully the White House that this CRA has broad support. It takes the right setup though, it takes the right plays, it takes the right tactics. It takes us doing our job internally, it takes NAGR membership doing their job externally, calling your congressman, advocating support for Clyde's CRA to nullify this rule. There are avenues we can take to nullify the rule, and this is one of them.